Cool. So let's see. Do I?
I think it's working.
Where's Kate at?
15. She's here.
I know.
Would the members please find their seats? I know Miss Bastuccia's here. Does anybody see Miss Bastuccia in the back?
There she is.
Welcome, Kate. Oh,
Are
wow,
those mine?
geez.
I think those are mine. They're mine. Thank you.
So welcome, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Tonight is Thursday, February 13th, 2020. Well, we have many guests, some regular, some not so regular in the audience tonight, and Team Peoria County staff members are here too. I'd like to ask Mr. Ivan Carlson, who dressed up for us tonight, to join me before we do the Pledge of Allegiance. He suggested he was too shy for this moment. I promised him we'd do it together. Come on up, Mr. Carlson. Mr. Carlson, his father is back here. If you want to come up right in the middle of everybody so you can get a good picture, feel free to. All those people staring at your back, that don't let them bother you. Come on up here, Ivan. All right, so would everybody please rise for a moment of silence, then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ivan said he's from Peoria, big town. We're in Peoria. Which part of town, Mr. Carlson? Off Prospect. It's a long road. Nice to have you both. Mr. Elsasser?
I've known the Carlsons for many years, and it's an honor to have them here tonight, and so happy for Ivan and his work with the Boy Scouts. I was going to say Cub Scouts because when I was a kid, the Cub Scouts were really big, and so anyway, it's an honor to have them here, and a very fine family. And my daughter and son actually bought a house. Daughter and son-in-law actually bought a house like 2 houses down from them just recently. So actually, right across from them. Okay. So it's a good. So they're going to be in a good neighborhood and well taken care of.
Thank you. And I know he can work on a lot of his merit badges out there on your farm, too. Right? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Are we ready for roll call?
Roll call.
$15 present, 3 absent.
Mr. Rosenbaum indicated to me that he was out of town on business, and then young Mr. Dillon indicated that he needed to recertify in one of the technical skill sets in his trade, that being medical gases tonight, and he had to take that test. Mr. Fennell?
He just got 2.
Phil?
Got 2.
Phil,
There
the
should
one
just
with
be
the
15. 15 present.
Yep, and they just think you vote twice in Chicago. They just think that's what that happened. Okay.
How I can get his off there. He pointed Rosenbaum. Dylan. There we go. We're good.
All right, so the vote has been corrected.
Yes.
Thank you for catching that. I don't have any citizen remarks. Did somebody plan on being here tonight? We have joining us tonight another very special guest, Deborah Rattler, Deputy City Manager with the City of Peoria, sitting next to our Deputy Clerk Gabe. Thank you for being here. She is in attendance for an item on consent tonight, as the city processed their half of this yesterday. So, could I get a motion? Ready?
Yes. We're at approval of the January 9th, 2020 County Board meeting minutes, and also the approval of January 9th, 2020 County Board executive session minutes.
Motion to approve, Mr. Salzer, and a second from Dr. Blair. Nice to have you, Dr. Blair. How are you feeling? We missed you. Any additions or corrections? Additions or corrections? Seeing none. You ready?
Yep. You can vote.
Please vote.
15 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Next would be the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Ms. Daly and Ms. Pastusha on the second. Sorry, Mr. Robinson, I'll try to catch you. Any items on consent requiring poll? Mr. Ricker?
I'd like to pull C5, please.
C5. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. We will be voting on everything but C5.
Sorry.
It's okay.
There we go.
Ready?
One moment. Okay. Now you can vote. You may vote.
Please vote on the consent agenda excluding C5.
Fifteen ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you very much. Now I need a motion to put C5 back on the floor, please. Thank you, Mr. Ricker, and a second from Mr. Robinson. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Mr. Ricker, you have comments.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to just really highlight this one as an opportunity for economic development, a joint effort between the city of Peoria and the county of Peoria. So I didn't want this just to be sent through and not highlighted. So with that, I would like to ask if Mr. Sorrell could just give us a high-level overview of what this program is and how it can incentivize economic growth in the Peoria County area. Bigger than the city, this includes both county and city. So I'd like to at least have that presented.
Sure. Would you also like Deborah to weigh in with
And-
Mr. Sorrell on that?
I would if I could keep Deborah down to her excitement. She's really excited.
Oh, I know.
and-
I know.
But I would love to have her input on behalf of the city. So if it would please the chairman, I would.
Come on up, Mr. Rattler, and Mr. Sorrell can begin, and we'll find a microphone for you when you get up here, Mr. Sorrell. Thank you, Mr. Ricker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a program that is spearheaded by Justine Peterson. Justine Peterson is a not-for-profit based out of St. Louis. They're the nation's one of the nation's largest micro lenders and economic developers in that arena. Where they focus their efforts on are individuals and small businesses in communities like ours that are either unbanked or underbanked. An unbanked individual is someone who completely relies on cash or alternative financial and normally predatory lending services to make their daily, weekly, and monthly cash flows. They have no traditional checking account or savings account at a commercial lending institution. An underbanked household or small business is one that does actually have a checking account or a savings account, but still relies predominantly on those predatory lending services to meet their monthly needs from a cash flow perspective. what Justine Peterson does, and they've done this with quite a bit of success thus far in St. Louis and other locations, including Springfield. They've been able to provide financial services that have led to over $415 million in home loans, $50 million of microloans to small businesses, and over $4 million in loans to over 9,000 individuals. And what that does is it gets a person or a small business from being unbanked to being able to actually have the financial literacy to become bankable, and someone then that would turn to a traditional commercial lending institution for those services. Our role in the process is going to be creating a loan loss reserve fund. And the staff is proposing that we use our Community Development Assistance Program dollars to do that. Our amount that we're guaranteeing is $100,000. That will leverage 10 times that amount in loan activity that Justine Peterson will issue. The results of what occurs then is our money would only be tapped into should anyone that Justine Peterson has made a loan to defaults on that loan. And based on some of the loan history that Justine Peterson has, they've been pretty successful, but we'd expect that reserve rate to last several years before it is exhausted. And as those loans are being repaid, then the loan fund becomes self-perpetuating. A very high-level overview, that's what our role is and what Justine Peterson does. I'll turn it over to Deborah to kind of fill in any other blanks and talk a little bit more.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Deborah Rattler with the City of Peoria. I will try to keep it brief. I do get excited about this topic. I just want to say that when we talk about poverty, a lot of times we focus on urban poverty, but we have those issues across the communities of Peoria of not having access to comprehensive, high-quality financial services. And so whether you are a small business in Chillicothe or a small business in Hannah City or a small business down the street, they really are looking to support micro enterprise. And some of the classic areas that they speak to pretty heavily and have some really great success in include things like the construction industry, which can be a great place to occupy whether you are in an urban or a more rural setting, for example. So the guy who needs to buy 10 windows to finish a job, that's a line of credit. If your credit's not great, that might be the limit of the business you can have. And if you don't know how to fix that, even if you get the money from a payday loan place, if you don't know how to fix that, that is going to be your limit for many, many years. And so it's the intervention of an organization like this that not only identifies you as a prudent but slightly higher than typical bank risk, and combining you with the educational steps to move into conventional banking and to become, really they say their business is creating customers for mainstream banks, and that it is their true goal. So just wanted to touch on that as well in terms of what does it mean to folks perhaps outside of Peoria as our more dense center. Anything else?
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Ricker, and then Ms. Relaford, Ms. Bastucci, and then Mr. Elsasser. Mr. Ricker.
So again, thanks Scott and Deborah for providing some additional background. One of the questions I have asked both to Deborah and others is proper communication of this to get it out to the target people that would use microloans to, match what Deborah's talking about and what Scott mentioned, to step up their ability to be creditworthy, eventually to be loaned by banks, traditional lines, start driving businesses. I think this is probably heavily from what I heard from Justine Peterson, it was more to business, small business microloans as opposed to residential, but I think they offer some of both. So one of the challenges I put out here for both the county and the city is how do we effectively promote this to get good utilization of it? You know, it's great that we approve a program, but if it's not used appropriately, then we've just spent a lot of effort and we've got minimal to no value for the citizens of our county. So I challenge that we work together to promote it, and then we put some metrics on defining success. You know, how many loans, did that help those businesses succeed? What are those metrics? And I don't have those at the top, but I'm challenging that, you know, I offered to Deborah, I'll help her put together some metrics, and she's got a team of people that she's also reached out to. But so I think it's a good opportunity. So I'll stop at that.
Just a question in talking about the involvement between the city and the county. Has there been any other areas within the state of Illinois where we've had government involvement as far as being a backup for the default, or is there any other communities other than Peoria that you've seen success measured?
Yes, so Springfield actually put $500,000 up to get Justine Peterson started in their community. I don't know the exact breakout of how they used all of those funds, but it clearly was a very significant commitment, and this is one of the classic gaps that type of funding would cover. But I haven't read their full pro forma, so I don't know.
Any more? Thank you. Pastusha? You don't. Well, then it must have been Mr. Robinson whose hand I saw, and then Mr. Elsesser.
Okay, Ms. Wilder, first of all, I want to let you know that I'm familiar with Justine Peterson. They've been here for a few years. They started doing microloans to individuals to help them get their credit up to a level where they could become more bankable, shall we say. This program here, I think is going to be great for this community. I think there's such a large need in this community, and I wish you the very best on it. And you and I have had a couple of meetings on this in the past, and I think this is going to be a big turnaround for the city in terms of less bankable people putting themselves in a situation where they can walk into a bank ultimately and gain a loan. Now, my question is, this particular program, is it pointed towards small businesses? Is that the idea here?
So the first loan pool that they have available is approximately $1 million, and it is predominantly small businesses. However, oftentimes the issue for small businesses is that the owner has basically creditworthiness issues, and so they can't issue a personal guarantee. They don't have those elements that banks are looking for the business relationship. And in essence, it is a personal interaction. It is an individual's credit rating that we're trying to build, but it is for the support of a microenterprise. So there's a real sort of gray area between those two definitions where they frequently occupy with those funds, but the funds that they have available at the moment, without doing a lot of active fundraising with other banking institutions, are focused on microenterprise type loans.
Thank you. Mr. Elsesser.
How many years has Springfield been involved in this venture, and how have they done?
They've done well. They actually now have, it took them about 3 years to get $500,000 in loans together, which I want to blow out of the water. I think that we can do our loan program a lot faster. I can't tell you the number of years they've been there in total. I'm guessing something like 5 or 6. Their loan book is at a place now where they are hiring additional staff. And so it's a growing loan book and continuing to grow at a steady pace. I am, as Board Member Riker commented, looking at how to work with the community to really kickstart the process and the relationship building and the access required for successful identification of quality candidates and engagement. And we're talking about looking at 50 to 100 loans in the first year. And so that's my aspiration, is that space, which would be a lot faster.
They put up $500,000 to get the project started, or $500,000 to back in the event of default?
So I'm sorry I wasn't clear before. I wasn't clear on the breakout. I know they put $500,000
into the program. My understanding, it was granted funds, so I don't know the breakout of the sources and uses if they identified specifics for that. I just.
Now, is this accurate that, I mean, I'm sure it's accurate, otherwise Reverend Robinson wouldn't have brought it forward, but that they are actually here in town already? Or?
Yes, they've done 75 loans arm's length, and so partners like SBDC, MBDC, half a dozen times a year will identify someone who seems to be a strong candidate and help them work through the loan process.
So my question for you is, why would they need us if they're already here?
To get to scale. They don't have boots on the ground. They need scale to actually be cost effective. So the 75 loans that they've had so far over 4 or 5 years might have produced, if I was doing rough estimates, something like $20,000, $25,000 worth of income. It's not enough to support a person. That's not a sustainable program. You got to get that loan book up so that you can keep the interest moving through the program to support the people who are running the program. And that's really, it's like the pony engine. You know, you got to get that warm up happening. And so that's the type of support that they're asking for. They aren't asking, and that's what they're asking the city for. They aren't asking to come back again and again to the city for those funds again. The intention is to get the engine running.
And do you have any idea what interest rate they need to charge in order to make a profit? Because I'm assuming it's probably higher than the bank would normally charge.
It is.
Which can work against someone who's struggling or trying to get started as well.
That's true. That's a great point. And so their interest rate, I think, brushes up to 12 to 16% from a low of maybe around 7 or 8%. But the competitive product that the folks that they're working with is actually going to be the payday loan and other alternative financial services. The APR that you typically see on these types of products is going to run between 36 and over 400%. It's hard to believe, but when you go all in with all the fees and penalties that can occur within these loans, it is explosive, which is part of why they're called predatory loans. The failure rate compared to a core loan at a bank, loans at banks run somewhere between a little under 1% failure rate for commercial loans, a little above 2.5% for residential and farm loans. This is where I start getting wordy, I'm sorry. But the Justine Peterson is around 7%. So that's where you get a little bit of that gap. Nationally, failure rate on microlending, 40%. So they're really good at the education and at the testing of your ability to meet the requirements of managing a loan before going into a larger loan amount. They have lots of really great mechanisms and actions in place to interact with the person and help them succeed. And it's evident in their numbers. But that 7% gap, that's part of where they need a little more also return, because they are covering, while still prudent and more prudent than the market, they do have to cover a higher failure rate.
I ran into a friend of mine today, and I didn't even tell him we were voting on this tonight. And for some reason, he brought up the hub zone. You're familiar with it, obviously, aren't you?
I am.
And he said it's so underutilized in Peoria. He said the average hub zone throughout the United States utilizes about a $1.5 million a year, and ours is only using like 40,000. Now, I'm not sure, everyone, if all these numbers are accurate or not, because I didn't have time, because this was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, to actually investigate that. But he said he knows of young minority couples that have really benefited, not enough of them in his mind, from the hub zone, and started their own business and are doing quite well. And so I just scratch my head sometimes and wonder, how many programs do we need? Like 6 months ago, and we came forward with the Lion Peoria, and it was supposed to be the end of all, and everything that was going to be great. And now, they didn't even get. I don't know if they didn't get their money from us or they chose not to. I don't know what happened, but to me, the most important thing is to create an environment, in Peoria County for families that are they're safe and their businesses can work with, their taxes are lower, and a favorable financial atmosphere, so that people want to be here. And I know there's some people that can't get loans. I understand that part, but you know, like the hub zone is not even being utilized. And so how many different programs are we going to come forward with?
Yeah, but I would say some programs you actually need to be larger than a certain amount. You need to have employees to really take advantage of Hub Zone, for example, if you're self-employed, if you're what we call like a shade tree mechanic, shade tree construction, where you're really sort of hanging your shingle at your doorstep rather than having an office. If that's the type of proprietorship you're running, the ability to take advantage of programs like that, those really are designed for a slightly larger type business. Typical businesses that Justine Peterson are supporting are going to have about 4 employees. And so these are the local neighborhood employment opportunities, and it's really neighbors employing neighbors.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
You got a lot packed in there, Mr. Elsesser. I'll be happy to comment with you after the meeting about a couple of those things. Anyone else? Miss Groves Allison.
Can you just take one quick minute and talk about the story you shared with us in committee about the couple, or I think it was a single mother that had the soccer shop?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a great example of the training that goes in to prevent the future need then.
Exactly. So this isn't just the gift of a financial opportunity. This is really the desire to be a gateway to financial sustainability and financial asset building, and that's their goal. And so a young woman, I believe her name was Minerva, and you can actually find this story on their website, had a soccer paraphernalia store, fandom stuff, and it was going gangbusters. It was going well. It was great. It was a great neighborhood shop. And then the soccer season ended, and she basically went dark. And she had I don't know exactly how many months the soccer season is dark. Does anyone have soccer kids? But 3-4 months she had to figure out, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to stay alive? I've got all this stuff in my store that I want to sell, but no one's coming in because the season's over. She went to Justine Peterson. They helped her through with a bridge loan, but they also helped her with the financial planning so that she knew she had enough funds the next year to make it through the dark period that she just didn't understand as she was starting her fledgling business. And you know, that's the typical couple of people in a storefront type business.
Anyone else? Okay, so we would be voting on C5. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, please vote.
That's 14 ayes and 1 abstention.
I see a nay.
I'm sorry, 14 ayes and 1 nay. No abstention.
Thank you. Come back, Ms. Rattler, to tell us how your communication plan goes, and we look forward to getting some reporting out of Justine.
Okay, next would be our zoning ordinance and resolutions. Item 1, a resolution from your Infrastructure Committee recommending approval of addendum number 5 to the surveying services agreement with Moore and Kerr Engineering and Land Surveying, PC, to perform structural cross-sections on approximately 40 to 50 structures with a not-to-exceed amount of $92,000.
Thank you. A motion to approve. Mr. Salzer and Ms. Pastusha. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Salzer.
as you look there, this has to do, of course, with our highway department. The federal government, and specifically the Federal Highway Administration, they conduct a survey, and our project manager, which is our county engineer, Amy McLaren, back here, and she's here if anybody would specifically want to ask her a question. We've got 180 structures indicated somewhere in the report and so forth, and these are bridges and culverts. And Jeff Gillis, the assistant to Amy, he reported that their office has been conducting a lot of the inspection already of bridges and so forth, and they're needing some help, and they are recommending that we hire Moore and Kerr, which is a local engineering firm, and they will do about 40 to 50 structures, mainly of the, I think, inspection of the culverts. And it's going to cost us about $92,000 on this.
Anyone else? Where is Superintendent McLaren? Hi, nice to see you. Phil, is it believed that this is work for this year? Is this all going to get done in 2020?
I thought it was, yeah.
Okay.
I'm correct, right?
Thank you, Superintendent. Appreciate it. All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, please vote.
That would be 15 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Next would be item number 2, a joint resolution from your Public Safety and Justice Committee and your Budget Committee recommending approval of a budget appropriation in the amount of $638,424.30 to pay in full the Emergency Telephone System Board Master Lease Purchase Agreement from Fifth Third Bank.
Thank you. A motion to approve. Dr. Blair. Second. Ms. Pastisha, thank you. Did this go through jointly with budget as well? Mr. Fennell, can you comment on this?
We had a meeting earlier tonight concerning this, and Dave Tuttle gave the presentation on this particular. It's to pay off the balance of the loan that we have on for the ETSB master lease agreement, and it was more favorable than the rates that he was having, so he recommended to pay it off.
Thank you. So this is not a new money. This is appropriated money. This is an early payoff.
Yes.
Excuse me, with a net savings to the ETSB.
Yes.
Any questions? You sure? Okay, please vote.
That's 15 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you.
Next we're at miscellaneous.
Mr. Carlson, Ivan, do you have any questions? Nothing we're doing here tonight you want to ask a follow-up to? You have any comments about a lemonade sale or cookies or where the troop meets next? It's usually popcorn. Oh, that's correct. Yes, correct. Is this the season? Do they do that in winter? That's what I thought. I have Scout popcorn. I do. He did? Holy cow, that's pretty good, Ivan. You must live in a really good neighborhood off Prospect. Well, it's so nice to have you here tonight. I hope you learned a few things, okay? I know you didn't want to be part of the show, but I'm kind of a pain in the neck about that sort of thing. Welcome. We're at miscellaneous. We don't have an executive session. Mr. Ricker.
Just want to remind everyone that tomorrow's Valentine's Day, so it's a great day, and I'd like to remind my friend Mr. Robinson, because he doesn't remember it's Valentine's Day. I want to make sure his beautiful bride gets recognition every 30 minutes, so it was due.
Pastor Chuck Brown will hold you accountable if you miss that. Okay. Ms. Pastusha?
I have a couple things. One, there is a 9 a.m. Breakfast or coffee with the mayor at Peoria Heights Village Hall on Monday, February 17th. The public is welcome. Feel free to come armed with questions. And so this is just for Peoria Heights Mayor Phelan to communicate with the community and to have the opportunity for community to ask questions. So this is for anyone who is interested in what's going on in the Heights. Another thing that's going on, Beth Kreider, Regional Office of Education, they have just started this week a pantry, and so there's a little free pantry, but they're also starting a bigger pantry inside Central High School. And so if you would like to drop off donations, she will be accepting donations in her office right across the hall. And it's a good time for this, so if you are able to bring in a donation before next Friday, they're having their first Lights On event at Peoria High, which is basically a opportunity for kids to stay overnight in the high school and stay off the streets and have a good time at the high school. So she highlighted the need for toiletries for high school students. So she said that's something that they commonly need. So I'd like to encourage everybody to donate items to the Peoria Central High School pantry. One more thing.
Sure.
I'm no longer a Girl Scout leader, but make sure you have $20 in your pocket in case you run across a Girl Scout. It's Girl Scout cookie season.
Will your girls be in? Okay. All right, so it looks like Ivan's getting the $20 then. Anyone else? Several acknowledgments I want to make. I've had it. Yes, Mr. Salzer. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Sheriff, Thank you, Sheriff. Ms. McLaren, I understand that Willow Knolls and Allen intersection has been receiving an engineering award. I don't know if I'm joining you next Friday for that or Thursday, but I'm going with the firm. Okay. I want to thank Dave Tuttle, who's also here from the ETSB and the City of Peoria, for a life in public service and a life in free public service, as he has been the chairperson of the ETSB, I believe, since its inception. Also, he has been an active member and has been the chief for life of Logan Trevoli Volunteer Fire Protection District as well. And that's how Dave and I first got to know each other. So thank you for being here. And if I'm missing somebody, it's because I just simply don't like you tonight. There are a couple of new members. I've been working a lot with Member Daley, and I just want to say when you start wondering how the value of unelected people in the room, and several of us, or not me, several of y'all might be unelected. I did face elections. Ms. Daley has put her shoulder into a couple or three subjects of great import for us and the county of Peoria in general. And I just want to tell you that behind the scenes, these new members we all ratified a few months ago, she's getting a lot of gold stars. I've been meeting with Ms. Brandy Bryant too, and we're going to be excited about a new project in the East Bluff soon that she's going to share in. Brandy is an extremely affable person, so if you've not taken her to lunch, do it. She has a window. She can make it happen. I don't think of her as shy, but I know everybody gets to know everybody through different associations, and because she sits all the way over there and is relatively quiet, and that's not going to last. I want you to tell you, she and I have had some really, really fun meetings, and I appreciate your efforts to learn, and Rob Renault has agreed to be, as you know, your mentor on all things Peoria County. Okay? All right. Seeing that everybody really wants to go home, Ivan, would you like to say we are adjourned? I'm going to wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and the clerk insists that I tell you the new password is Peoria County for our mobile Wi-Fi. capital P in Peoria, capital C in county, one word, no dashes, no hyphens, no underlines. Peoria County. Redo your mobile Wi-Fi, wireless ID code. I not get that.